This is on Zoho Desk. So we're going to cover, as we do on all of our overviews, we're going to talk a little bit about what help desk software is, and then we're going to give you an overview of Zoho Desk, some of the key components, agents, how they use it, admins, a lot of the settings you have there. And then in the limited time we've got here, we're going to cover some key customizations that we think are really super important when setting up Zoho Desk. So email forwarding from addresses, some ticket status automation, email snippets, knowledge base. Then we'll hopefully have some time for some Q&A. And so with that, we're going to get straight into it here. What is help desk software? Well, for those of you that don't know, it is the software you use to manage your customer care and to engage with customers, hopefully in a very organized and systematic way. Specifically, how can you handle all of your customer queries in a fashion that makes sure that nothing falls through the cracks and everything is managed extremely efficiently. That's really all help desk software is. There are a lot of major companies out there. You've got Zendesk, Freshdesk, Zoho has their desk software, which we're going to talk about today, but it's really kind of a key component in working with your customers and making sure you're providing adequate customer service. So you've got, your key benefits of implementing any type of help desk program are efficiency. By having all of your support tickets coming into a centralized location, you don't have, a single person who's actually managing them. Sure, you can assign your tickets, but you have the ability to have multiple people getting eyeballs on these tickets, perhaps having their various expertise to jump into those tickets as well, rather than just have one person try to manage them all. And you've got this whole centralized methodology of handling these and responding to these tickets in a very efficient manner. Productivity. This is basically when you're efficient, you're more productive. It's just as simple as that. And one of the key things also is you can build out an extremely detailed knowledge base. Over time, your knowledge base becomes really your internal historical reference of everything you've got going on in your company. So every single product, every bug you've ever had over time, anything that's ever been solved, all these customer queries that come in, things you might not have thought about. Well, if you start putting them into the knowledge base, sure enough, you're going to get those questions down the line, and it makes your agents and you much more efficient and be able to respond in a very intelligent manner to your customers, which provides for an extremely robust customer experience where they're happy because they've got fast, dependable, and accurate service. And anytime you have that, you have happy customers. All right, so with that, we're going to turn it over to Tyler here, and he's going to talk about the agent's view, what an agent sees when they're actually using Zoho Desk and what they need to think about.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Brett. And so yeah, the agent view is really just what your actual users are going to be looking at when they go ahead and open up Zoho Desk. And so if you look here, basically, this is our initial home screen. What you're seeing here is basically a list of all of the open tickets or tickets that have come into your system. And basically all that a ticket is some type of incoming request. That could be from a form or from an incoming email or a phone call if you go ahead and integrate that. And there are a couple different quick ways that we can go ahead and view these tickets. So right here, we're looking at the classic view, which basically gives you just a quick look at the ticket itself. Right? It's kind of a medium-sized row there on the screen. And then if we go ahead and move to the next view here, we'll do one more click there, down to compact. Just going to shrink each of the lines a little bit so you can see a couple more tickets on the page. And then if we go down to the table view, it's going to kind of organize it like a spreadsheet. So the users can kind of pick and choose different ways that they want to view their tickets. And then there's a couple additional views here as well. So we can also look at things in what's called a countdown mode. So it's basically going to sort them based on their due date. So we can see that it's basically grouped our ticket here and that it's due in 6 hours or more. Right? If we had one that was due a little sooner, it would add another section for 6 hours or less. And then last but not least, you can organize them into groupings based on a couple other different fields. Right? So we can group them based on status, based on a handshake, meaning if the contact is connected to some other system, as well as a countdown mode and a priority mode, which your countdown is going to be based on due date, and then your priority is going to be based on the priority of each of the tickets. And so if we go ahead and open up the ticket here, we've got some key information and then kind of our workspace. So if we look here, that basically looks like an incoming email, right? Where we can see the content that the person sent in to us. And it gives us a couple different tools that we can use to respond. But over here on the left is kind of some of the key information about the ticket. So up at the top there is who the ticket came in from. We'll see there's a little handshake out to the CRM there as we have that integration turned on. You can also see who it's assigned to, what the status is, the due date, and a couple other bits of information about the ticket. And then the users can also update information in that section and have it saved to the ticket. Now over here on the right is where we have the actual content of the request. So in this case, this is an incoming email that created this ticket. So we can see that this looks just like an email. It's got a little signature at the bottom and everything. And so that's basically where all the content of the ticket will be stored. Up here at the top, we have some additional functionality that we're not going to dig in too much into today. But to do a quick overview, you're basically able to store a resolution to a ticket, which you can then populate into your knowledge base. You can track time against the ticket. You can attach files to the ticket. You can create activities like additional tasks or events around it. You can also send it for approval and, of course, track the full history of the ticket. But the primary things that we're going to want to do are driven by these two buttons up at the top right. So the button on the left-hand side there is going to be your respond button. So you can actually go ahead and click that button there, and you'll be able to respond to the ticket. Right, so now we're seeing that basically this is just functioning like an email browser, right, where I'm able to type in my response, give it a little sign off, and then I can send it back out to the customer via email. And the other thing that we can do is save comments onto these tickets. Right, so if I press that button up in the top right, I can go ahead and leave a comment. And you can either make these private, meaning that only your team is going to see them, or external, meaning that the client will see them. And the last thing that we can do here is these options that are under the three dots over there on the top right. So in there, we can do things like edit the ticket. We can move the ticket between departments. We can share it externally or with other users. You can follow it to get some notifications around actions on the tickets. Maybe you want to know when it's closed or if it's reopened. And then you can mark it as spam, delete it, and clone this exact ticket. Let's go ahead and take a look at the edit view here. And this is basically just a expanded screen here of all the different fields that we can store about a given ticket, right? So here we see who it's connected to, what the account is, being the company. We have the contact information that the ticket came in with an email and a phone number. And then as we go down the page here, we have things like the status and the priority of the ticket that get stored all in this edit ticket page. So it's kind of if you need to expand on any of the information in a ticket that isn't available to you in that initial view, then the user can go ahead and edit the ticket to do so this way.
All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the admin settings and how these play in. And man, are there a lot of admin settings that you can have here. So as in, if you're familiar with CRM, you're going to be very familiar with this. There's a little gear up in the corner. You're going to go ahead and click that gear. And when you do, you're going to be taken to the admin page. So a lot of these are very similar. So, the channels here, we're going to spend a considerable amount of time kind of talking about email, but you can configure a help center. This is customer facing, what your customers can see, and kind of a self-service portal. Your chat, which is really sales IQ and bringing all that in, setting up all your communities and various other things. There's just a whole lot of different functionality that you can set up as far as your communication channels and how people are going to interact with you. Email and help center are a big one. When you talk about the help center alone, you can rebrand it. You can set up access centers, set up your SEO, your users, your templates, everything around that. Google Analytics, these are just all of the kind of things that just go into the help center alone. So there's a whole lot here for you to kind of look at. And then when we go to the whole overall general settings page, how are you going to set up your company, your rebranding, your business hours, all of those kind of things. Really, this is where you'll set all of that up. You also can have your whole customer happiness where you're allowed to, where you let your customers rate their overall experience. You kind of saw that a little minute ago when Tyler was showing that email. It had the 3 happy faces, kind of an easy way for your customers to rate it. And then you've got overall customization. So, these ticket statuses and all of the layouts. So when Tyler was looking at that edit page, you actually can change those layouts. You can add additional fields, other thing you want to do, time tracking, set up your modules, just like in the CRM. You've got the base modules here. You can go ahead and set those up as well. And then of course you've got just your general personal setting. You also just have a tremendous amount of templates that you can set up. And they've actually made a bunch of changes to these templates recently, make them a lot easier to actually access. This came out last week, but from the template side, all the agent, these are all emails for agent notification, contact notification, secondary contact notification, team notifications, all of these various things that can be automated, sent out through workflows, or you have that ability to just manually send these out when you've got a ticket. There's a whole lot that really goes into that. And then on the automation, if you're familiar with things inside of the CRM, then you'd be very familiar with things here inside of Zoho Desk. You can have assignment rules, workflows, blueprints. You can set up differently SLAs. These are your service level agreements. If a ticket hasn't been responded to in a certain amount of time, then let's escalate it. What happens? Where does it go? Those kind of things. Support schedules, all of those. You can also set up your support contract. Everything is kind of handled on this automation side. Makes things very, very really the key here is this overall automation. As much as you can automate inside the help desk, then the better chance you have that you're going to have a better chance of success across the board in delivering a nice customer experience. And then under users and controls, you can set up your permissions for your agent. You can set up various teams. Maybe you have a certain group of people that are expert in a certain product or service. You want to put them in a team. You can set up their permissions, what they can see and what they can't see. All the basic data administration can also be handled back here. So your imports, your exports. And they have a kind of a big one is this thing called Switch. And so it didn't appear that any of you were using either Zendesk or Freshdesk in our little poll that we did here. But if you were, Zoho makes it extremely easy for you to switch. You basically can just go in and choose which one of those two products you're using, put in your email and your password, and put in your Zoho Desk email and password, and they handle the entire switch for you. So it's basically all done on the back end. And once you do that, all of your tickets, knowledge base, all that kind of stuff can repopulate. So it's a very, very easy, simple way to migrate from one of those services over to Zoho Desk. And then we have the marketplace. And this has kind of been growing. Zoho Marketplace, for those of you who don't know, is where they have third-party applications or applications written by Zoho that provide certain connectivity or certain services that you don't get natively in the product. It started off with CRM. This is growing tremendously. If you listen to the CRM Zen show, we talk about this almost on a weekly basis, all of the new applications that are being added. So right now you're looking at, you've got about 14 applications that are available. I guess 18 applications that are available here for Zoho Desk, and they're growing on a daily basis. So, and if you want one of these applications, I'll tell you, if you put it out there in the Zoho community, a lot of people are writing for these now. Zoho's made it really easy to develop applications for their product lines. And so we're seeing more and more of these nice integrations come in. And then you've got the developer space, and this is really where kind of we live, but you may want to as well. You can do some API integrations with third parties. We can write custom functions. These are in Deluge, basically to help you manipulate data inside of Zoho Desk. Webhooks, maybe you want to pull in stuff from other outside applications in. And then we've got the SDK and some build extensions. So a whole lot here on the back end that you can do. And we're going to focus on a few of these when we kind of talk about some of the key areas here as we go through our 5 key customization areas. So, all right, so we're going to start with that. We're going to talk a little bit about email forwarding. This is really the key to Zoho Desk. How does email get into your CRM? So, or into Zoho Desk? So most people, when they are wanting support, they're going to send an email to support at whatever your company ID may be. So in this case, they support at Zenatta.com. Maybe you want to have a whole bunch of different types of emails that can come in. Well, how do you set that up? How can a person send something to support at Zenatta, and how do you get it into Zoho Desk? Very simple. You go into the back into the settings, you click on the email channels, and right at the very top, you're going to see all of your support email addresses. So what Zoho does is they go ahead and they set up some default email addresses. So in this case, if we look here, you've got support@zenattaconsulting.zohodesk.com. Well, you could just put that email out there and let people go ahead and use that as the email that they sent for support. But in most cases, you want to completely custom brand it to your own domain. So it's very simple to do such. Really, what you're going to do is you're going to have to go into the back end of your email software. So in this case, I'm going to give you an example of Gmail. So when you go into Gmail, if you look in the back end in the settings, this will not be in your Gmail. This is usually in the admin panel. You can go in and you can change your default routing. So in this case, you can see we're going to take support@zenatta.com and we're going to forward it to that email address. We're actually doing something a little different. We're actually changing the recipient. So in real time, when an email comes into support@Zenatta, we change the recipient to support@zenattaconsulting.zohodesk.com, which was that other email we looked at. And then that automatically then will deliver all of these tickets directly into Zoho Desk. So really, really, really straightforward way to get all of your tickets in here. You can also, by the way, set up forms. You have that ability inside of Zoho Desk where you can create a custom form. So somebody on your website can fill out a form and they can open a ticket that way. You also can use Zoho Forms and connect it directly to Zoho Desk. So there are a lot of different ways to get your tickets inside Zoho Desk to your support agents, but email is usually the one that you'll see most people use. And this is the kind of the quick down and dirty way to get it there. Well, once you get that set up and it's coming in, you're not going to really want to reply from support@Zenatta Consulting at Zoho Desk. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up your from addresses. And so again, this is handled on the back side on the admin panel. You're going to go into email and then you're going to go to your from addresses. And again, just very, very straightforward. You just go ahead and you put the actual from address in here and you're going to, I'm going to show you here if we add one. So for example, I noticed that info wasn't in here. So I kind of show you what it looks like to add a new from address. So in this case, I wanted to go to our department, Zenatta Support, and I'm going to make the from address info@zenatta.com. I'm going to put the friendly name info@Zenatta. And then, we're going to basically say, what's the SMT? What, if I want this to go out not using Zoho servers, but our own servers, you can go ahead and put in the Gmail server in this case. So I'm putting in the full login information to send anything from info directly out of Zoho Desk. So it's coming from there, makes a less chance of it going into spam and makes it a little cleaner on the delivery option. So now when you're replying, you have your choice. How do I want to reply to this email? Am I going to reply to it from an info? Am I going to reply to it from support? And those emails, again, are directly coming from your own company domain. And once you click save, now you've got that added in as your new from email address. So straightforward. Those are the two key things you're going to want to do right out of the gate. You need to get those set up once you get Zoho Desk working.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is kind of one of the best practice customizations that we'll always put into place for people. And as a quick summary, basically what this is going to do is help you define which tickets are in the customer's court and which ticket are in yours, right? So it's going to define if we are the last one to respond or if they are the last one to respond. So to do this, we're going to go under settings in the top right of the screen. That'll pull up this admin panel again, and then we'll drop into our workflows. We can go ahead and create a new rule. And so I've went ahead and given it a name here. So we've just called it on agent response. We'll mark it on hold. We'll see why I named it that in just a sec. So now we're going to define what's going to trigger this automation, right? So we've got a lot of different options here. So, you can trigger workflows when a ticket's created, when it's edited to meet certain criteria, when a specific field is updated, when a customer replies, if an agent replies, if there's a comment or if you get a certain happiness rating, maybe you want to notify someone. But so for this workflow, we're going to trigger it on the agent response, which basically means once we actually send an email back out on this ticket, this workflow is going to run. So we go ahead and click next at the bottom. Now we can put in criteria into these workflows, which are basically like little filters. So maybe if we only wanted to trigger this if the status was open, right, then we could put that in. For our purposes here, we really don't want to make it specific to any status, but just as an example. And then last, we can go ahead and add the action. So there are 4 different types of actions that you can run in a workflow. The first of which is going to be an alert, which is either going to be a little email that goes out to someone or pop up on the screen with some type of reminder. You can also trigger tasks to go out to people that'll live inside of the activities in Desk. You can do a field update, which is basically a hard-coded way to say, when this runs, update the status to open or to on hold. Right, and then you can trigger any custom functions that you have written directly through these workflows as well. So if you want to do some more complicated work, like maybe you wanted to write some of the ticket information over into the CRM, or if you wanted to, do some math on some fields that are inside of a ticket and output a result into a new field, right? You can go ahead and do any of those with a custom function. For our purposes here, we're going to go ahead and create a field update. Right, so we'll need to give it a name and we'll need to define which field is going to be updated here. So I went ahead and named it status to on hold because what this field update is doing is updating the status field to be defined as on hold. So if we go ahead and save that, we'll now see that once we've responded to this ticket, right over in the right-hand side there, it's been defined as on hold. And again, the real key benefit to this is that you want to be able to create views and create filters to show people what's most actionable. And so if you've sent out an email responding to a ticket and the customer hasn't gotten back to us yet, that ticket should be lower on the priority list for review, right? Because at that time, the ball is in the customer's court, right? So a good workflow could be, working through all of our open tickets. And then once we're finished with open tickets, maybe we go over to our on hold tickets and do some follow-ups and make sure that, the customer is aware that we might need some more information from them. And so this one's one that's just very quick to set up in the CRM or in Zoho Desk. And it ends up being pretty high impact. One kind of final thing to note about it is that you don't need to set up the kind of reverse option here, where when a customer responds, it goes back to open, because that's just default functionality. So we don't need to add in workflow for that specifically. We just need one that will update it to on hold when we go ahead and send an email out. And then another nice little customization, which is really easy to miss inside the CRM or inside of Desk, are email snippets. So when we're looking at a ticket here and we go to respond to the ticket, there's a tiny little button in our red box here for email snippets. And basically what an email snippet is versus something like an email template is, an email snippet can provide you a little block of text that you're going to want to drop into a wide variety of emails, right? So an example of a snippet that you may want to drop in, could be something like, please respond via this email address so that we can serve you best, right? So that's an example of something where regardless of what the context of your message is, you may want to include that. For us, we're going to go ahead and set up a quick little example snippet. So once we click that button, we'll be able to add a snippet. So we'll need to give it a name and then the content of the snippet. Right, and so we've done that here. We've created an example snippet with our content. And now all I need to do is click on that snippet over on the right, and it'll drop it directly into the email. So again, these are just a little bit different than email templates because you want to define content that has a wide range of uses to go into these snippets so that when people are responding to things that maybe don't fit into a template, maybe it's a question that we haven't gotten before or a more rare question that we don't have a specific kind of canned response for, you can still have some of these predefined little sections of an email that you're going to want to use over and over, regardless of if you're using a template or not. So we just see it a lot where people go straight to the templates and do a lot of the work there, which is a great way to do it. You definitely want to have a robust set of email templates and knowledge base articles to pull from. But these snippets can just be really nice for just injecting these little chunks of text that you're going to use on a regular basis into your emails.
All right, and then kind of playing directly off of that, we'll talk about the knowledge base, which is kind of your email snippets on steroids, I guess, in a lot of ways. And it also becomes something that is available to your users should they decide to use their self-service portal. So the knowledge base is, again, up at the top. You see you've got your tickets, and then one of the other key modules is KD, which stands for knowledge base. And here we're looking at, basically all of those tickets that are associated with Zenatta Consulting. So this is all of the knowledge base that we have here. So every single aspect of anything that, anything that we come up with where it's something we have to answer it over and over and over again. Maybe you want to have a detailed article on it. It's a help, it's a how-to, things that kind of common questions you get all the time. You really want to develop really nice articles, if you will, about these so that you can then quickly respond and get this information out to your clients. And you also can break these down by various groupings. So in this case, I've got the Zoho books. So just the things that are directly associated with Zoho books and any questions that people may have around Zoho books. So, someone says, hey, how do I add and remove my logo in Zoho books? Well, you want to create an entire specific document around how you do that. So this is a step-by-step email that takes you through every single thing you need to do to add or update your logo inside of Zoho Books. So let's say you got a help desk ticket. Oh, by the way, if you wish to add a new, first I'll take you, how do you add new help desk articles? You would think this would be, oftentimes we actually get this question, how do I add a help desk article? Because when you go into the knowledge base, there's nothing that says add a new article. It's really just this little plus button up at the top. So if you click on that plus button, you're basically able to go ahead and completely add a new article in. So you can talk about all of the various settings. You can put it in your whatever group you want to put it in. So whatever it's related to. So it's kind of a nice, quick, down and dirty way to go ahead and add your knowledge base in. You also have some very interesting formatting options. Now you can just drop in HTML, you can type anything, but Zoho also goes and they gives you these little formatting things around to kind of point things out and to highlight them. So you notice I put the words be careful here. So maybe that was a little heading. Well, over on the right-hand side, you'll see you've got these little content blocks. So you can add notes and warnings and alerts and info. So if I was to make this a warning, then be careful gets a little red triangle with an exclamation point. It gets, and it's got be careful's highlighted. So you kind of have that ability to kind of make these articles really stand out as you're building kind of these little knowledge-based tips. You can also put a table of contents in, your versioning, everything, so you can kind of see everything that you've gone through in building out this knowledge base article. So let's say I got a ticket in, like Tyler was talking about earlier. It says, how do I update my company logo? Well, over on the side here, you'll see a little red light, a little light bulb with some rays coming off of it. Well, that is your knowledge base. So if you click into that, it's going to give you a list of all of the knowledge base articles that it thinks could potentially be associated. First, it tries to use some logic by reading the email and saying, hey, these are the ones we think you might want. So here it's got add or remove your logo. And if you click into that, you then have this ability here to share it. So you can share a link if you click on the share button, or you can go ahead and you can actually click the insert button and you can directly insert it into the article. So that entire knowledge base article we were looking at gets inserted directly into the email, and then you send it out and away you go. This is a really clean way to make sure you're staying on message, to make sure that you're actually delivering the best advice to clients, because over time it can be vetted by your agents, it can be edited by your agents, and these knowledge bases, over time, they become kind of the key to really providing this consistent customer service and providing a great customer experience. So down and dirty, a little more detailed than snippets. Snippets are these little one-off things. The knowledge base, kind of some really big articles that you can go ahead and insert and drop right in as well. So it looks like we've got you've answered quite a few questions here, Tyler. And anyone do we want to highlight? I was driving the decks, so you kind of jumped in, and that's very good. So where do we want to start?
Yeah, let's highlight a couple of them. We have a question from Sierra around merging tickets. So she had a question about being able to actually merge out a ticket. She wasn't able to find the option for it. So I did a quick little query on the back end here. We're going back and forth, Sierra. And one of the reasons that the merge option may not be there if you ever don't see it is if you're in the all departments view. So when you're in like the list view of tickets, you can select multiple tickets. And then up at the top of the page, you have options for, updating a field, closing them out, deleting them, or marking them as spam. But then once you go into a specific department, and it's a little tricky because even if you only have one department, you'll have all departments or just that one as little options in the top right. So you'll want to be you want to just make sure that if you do need to do any merging, you go into a one specific department view, and then you're able to merge your tickets, which can be really nice because it's not rare for people to, maybe send you an email over the weekend and then they send another on Monday to follow up. And, if they didn't respond to the original, if they just sent a new one, well, now you have two tickets, right, about the same issue. And so as an admin, you're going to want to merge those so that you don't have two different reps jump in and answer each one individually. So merging can definitely be very useful.
So Eric, you had a non-desk question here, but it says, why are we using Zoom instead of Showtime? And Tyler briefly answered it. So a couple of things. Showtime is an absolutely fantastic app for training. We love it. It has had some tremendous recording issues lately. The quality of the recording is extremely grainy. So the slides that you would see on the screen when we go to put this up on YouTube or onto the website, they're virtually unreadable. It also will only allow one video to be on the screen at the same time. So you have kind of some issues with some videos. So when we actually do some post-production on these to kind of clean them up for the YouTube channel. And so we kind of ran into some issues there. We think that Zoho will get this fixed sooner rather than later, and we hope they do, because I'd love to save the $140 a month that we're paying for Zoom webinars, because it's included. And the same issues, basically, Zoho Meeting has a webinar application. We get asked that a lot as well. There are just some small issues that at the end of the day, from a time basis, the last 5 webinars, we actually did them that way. And Tyler and I have had to redo each and every one of them later in the afternoon because of some various issues that happened. So we just decided to do this one in Zoom. All right, Tyler, what's the next question?
Let's see. So we had a question about updating some client contacts in Zoho. So Patty was mentioning that she's a lot more comfortable working inside of the CRM rather than desk, right? Because that's where a lot of people spend most of their time. And so the question was, can I update things in desk or in CRM and then have those updates reflect over in desk? And you totally can, as long as you have your CRM and desk integration turned on, which is real quick to set up. It's basically just clicking a couple buttons. The one trick will be is that if you're working with any custom fields that you want to update, and to make sure that those exist in both places. So for example, maybe I stored inside of my account a custom field with like my company's ID for that record. And I wanted to sync that over to desk. I would just need to create an equivalent custom field in desk and then add it to the integration. Then you can write it across over into desk directly from the CRM. We also had a question from Mike, and this was a good one around the on hold automation. And so his question was basically that, his team will use on hold to define things that, we're just not able to answer right now. So maybe we're waiting on a response from a vendor or manufacturer, we're waiting to get some product back in stock so that we can properly answer a question. And so what we'll do in that case is you'll want to just define 2 different waiting statuses, right? So you can have one for on hold, right? And as long as your team knows that that means, we're waiting on something outside of our control, they can define them that way. And then you could have another status called, like pending customer approval or pending customer input. And you could trigger the workflow to update the status to a different option other than the one that you're using for managing your waiting tickets.
All right. And then we got a question from Brian about Ring Central app and that integration. Brian, I'll tell you what, we'll make there's under channels, you have phone, and that's where you're going to set up your telephony integration. I'll make a quick little video on that and we'll get that posted online. I'll make that the tip of the week for next week's show. So if you want to look at that, but it's really straightforward. It's good you have Ring Central. It's interesting because Zoho's telephony integration is still a little fractured. It's getting better with Zoho One, and they're trying to integrate it. But you do run into issues where certain telephony providers only support certain Zoho applications. Ring Central is a great choice because it not only supports CRM, but it also supports Desk, and it supports Recruit and some of the other major applications where you'd want to have that sort of integration. So we'll put a little tip on how to do that, and we'll get that posted up. I'll get it posted up this week. We'll just make it the tip of the week. And I think we've got your email, so I'll shoot you an email when that's up.
Sweet. And then we had one question here coming from Eric. And this one was about workflows if a ticket's been on hold for a certain amount of time. So this isn't something that's really directly accessible. And basically, to explain a little more, what Eric is saying is that if a ticket's been on hold for, let's say, 2 days, right? Maybe we want to notify someone that, let's circle back around on this ticket. So though you can't do it directly via workflows, you can do a couple little automations where when a ticket is marked on hold, we stamp the date and time. And then you can have a scheduled custom function run, maybe every day or every day at 8 a.m., right? Which reads all the tickets and finds ones that were marked as on hold, over 24 hours ago, and then sends an email regarding those tickets. So it's doable, but not through the direct, kind of the easy way through those workflows.
All right, so I'm looking through. Tyler, I think you've covered them all. I guess we've got one here.
We got a couple here.
Yeah, I got a few more. We'll take this one. So we use Jive CRM integration, and we're just getting started with Desk. Will Jive work the same way in Desk? I think Jive does have Desk support. Yes, pretty sure it does. I'll check on that actually here on the back end. Give me 1 second. Tyler, why don't you answer the question? I'll find it. You know what? I have a bad news. No, Jive does work. So yes, Jive is supported on Desk. It's been included.
Gotcha. Then we have a question here around round robin. So round robin, and it's funny, we were actually on a call about this the other day. So round robin basically works when you have tickets going into certain departments. So basically what it's going to do is look at how many tickets everyone has, right? And kind of assign them in a round robin fashion. So if Brett and I are the two users in Desk and I have 5 tickets and he has 5, right? It'll define, okay, I get the next one. Now I have 6. So when a new one comes in, he'll get the next one. So then he has 6. One of the challenges with round robin, however, is that if you implement it kind of later, when the ticket allocation is more skewed, or the open ticket allocation, I should say, is more skewed, is it will kind of load a lot of tickets onto whoever is new. So if I was the only agent and I had 5, and then we added Brett and put him into the round robin, then he would get every ticket until he has 5. So it kind of tries to keep everyone even based on the amount of tickets that they have. So that can kind of be a little bit of a challenge, just because as you're adding new users, you'd like to be able to say, starting now, go round robin, right? So everyone should start at 0 if you're going to institute a new user to add to that round robin. But as of right now, unfortunately, it works based on just the total count of open tickets. Let's see here.
I'm looking through.
Is there a way as an admin to change response times and close times, like a manual override? I don't believe so. Do you know, Brett? I think those are stamped, right, as you're making these updates from the system view. I can take a quick look here, but I do believe those are locked down.
And we're looking at that. So we've got a question here about how do you create a label for clients that are paying for premium support versus standard support? Tyler, there's a couple ways of doing this. I mean, one thing you can do is give them their own email. Very simple to set up an alias. They've kind of got premium support kind of thing. So when that's coming in, you can set up some assignment rules around that. We've also done things where you can actually set up assignment rules around specific clients. Correct, Tyler?
Yep.
So you can go there and say, hey, great, if it's this client, then we're going to set up an assignment rule specifically to move this one to escalate them into a premium support situation where you can do that. So you've got several different ways of doing that. It's really, I think oftentimes I like the, hey, here's your special support email. It makes people feel special when you do that. So it's not really a bad thing to do, and it just takes a minute to set that up. And then you can, but of course, then if they drop from premium support, they got that special email. So you'll have to have a rule that kicks them out of there. So a couple ways to do it.
Yep. And I did take a look. Unfortunately, it does not look like we can override on the response times and close times, though you could kind of back your way into it. So if you created custom fields for those and then set up workflows that filled them in, right? So I could set up a workflow that says every time an agent responds, update this response time, or maybe the first time they respond. And I could say when a ticket is closed, stamp this field. So they'd be kind of duplicates, but then you'd have custom versions that you'd be able to edit later if you did need to. And that was to Eric's question. We have one here that kind of snuck in. I missed it when I was looking through, so I want to circle back around. It was from Lee. Is there a way to opt out a tech or a user from the ticket queue? And so this would matter mostly when you have auto assignment going. So if you have like a round robin, or you have assignment based on your maybe whoever owns that client. So there's no kind of direct opt out, but you can go ahead and set up workflows that will reassign those tickets. Right. So it's not kind of a perfect solution, but you could say, you know, for this week, we're going to set up a quick little workflow where anytime a ticket goes to me, we're just going to reassign it to Brett because I'm out of town right now and he's available to take those tickets. Let me see here. Can snippets be created by one person and shared to other users? Snippets are specific to the user. So it's a good thing to have in your onboarding process, right? So if you have a new person joining the team who's going to be working in desk, right? One of the things that you'll want to do kind of as you're walking them through desk is, you know, show them things like the knowledge base, show them where to find tickets, and then show them where to create those snippets and maybe walk through creating some of the key ones that you use at your company.
Yeah, and then we have a question about, is it possible to add reCAPTCHA for clients creating tickets? CAPTCHA is available, but reCAPTCHA, yes, you can do reCAPTCHA, but you need to do it over in Zoho Forms. I don't believe reCAPTCHA is available inside Zoho Desk Forms at this point in time. You want to take the labeling question there, Tyler?
Premiums for first transport. Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about. So as long as you, this is the question of, you know, can you create a label on tickets for different tiers of support? So basically, as long as you have that stored somewhere, right? So if you have inside of their account in the CRM, you have them flagged as premium or standard, or just directly inside of desk. But as long as there's some type of reference, right, then you can access that. So what we'll do a lot of the time is that for a lot of our clients, that type of info would be stored in the CRM. So what we'll do is basically take the email address of the ticket, go through the API and fetch that contact in the CRM, and then fetch the company that that contact is a part of and return either, you know, your premium or your standard, right? So then you're able to basically query out to wherever you have that information stored and then return it to categorize the ticket. So it's a little bit of legwork, right? It's not quite as plug and play as some of these things are, but it's definitely doable, and it's not like a crazy project, especially if you're using Zoho Flow. It makes it a lot easier. Explain setting up a team. Yeah, so basically the teams are different groups of users. And to set up a team, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, we go into the users and teams section. We can go ahead and create that team and assign different users to it. And then what you can do is set up workflows, right? Where in the same way that I have a workflow saying when we respond, go ahead and update the status. You could say like if a ticket comes in and the industry is, you know, automotive, right? Maybe you have a team to handle those tickets. So you can set up little workflows to automatically assign them appropriately.
And Eric, you're saying, so basically you're looking in the tasking part of tickets where you're asking, hey, if a call or email has been incorrectly attached to a ticket, is it possible to move it? It should be on edit to actually change the relation, but I'm not sure. I've never actually had that question come up. Tyler, do you know?
Well, so it's two different pieces here. So for an email, right, if you
Not
respond
possible.
if you're responding to the ticket via email, if that's what you mean here, you wouldn't be able to move that email over because it really, again, you can think about that ticket view a lot like an email browser, right? So once you send it, it really just becomes an outgoing email. But if you do have like a call in the activities that's associated to a ticket, you should be able to pull up the edit screen on that and reassociate it to a different ticket. Yeah, it is just a little bit different for the emails.
You're kind of stuck with email. And that seems to be it. Well, hey, we want to thank everybody so much for joining us here today. And we are going to have our next webinar is going to be on June 23rd. It'll be on Zoho Social. So if you don't subscribe to our newsletter, Zenatta, go to zenatta.com/newsletter, and all the information on how to do that will be there as well. We'll put the links there. The links will also be on our homepage at zenatta.com. And we'd love for you to follow us on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We post a lot of content every week, and we hope you enjoy it, because we certainly enjoy putting it together for you.